train a-comin', it's rolling around a bend, and I ain't seen the sunshine since I don't know when. I'm stuck in Folsom Prison, and time keeps dragging on. But that train keeps a-rolling on down to San Antone.
Most people do their utmost to stay out or get out of prison rather than trying to talk their way in. But Alexander Reynolds has approached prison authorities of more than 100 jails asking to be allowed in. Is he mad? Well, let's find out because he joins me from Bangkok, Thailand. Alexander, why are you doing this?
Well, the reason I'm doing this is to try to see firsthand just what the impact of going to prison has on an inmate. And the only way I can learn about what the situation is to go into the environment and experience it for myself and try to report the facts that I find.
And will you be looking at conditions, comparing conditions in different countries, for example?
Oh, yes, almost certainly.
And you're writing a book about this at the end?
Yes, I'm writing a book. It's called Around the World in 80 Jails, and it's going to take me about 8 to 10 months to complete.
Gosh,
it should be in a bookstore near you sometime next year.
It sounds an extraordinary 8 or 10 months. Have you ever been to jail for real?
Well, I spent one night in the Slammer in Notting Hill Gate Police Station back in 1993 for a breach of the peace, but aside from that, no.
So it obviously gave you a bit of a taste for it. What are you trying to do at the moment? You're obviously trying to get into a jail in Thailand.
Yes, I'm talking to the DOC here, the Department of Corrections, about possibly visiting Bang Kwang Central Prison, also known as the Big Tiger, because it tears tough guys apart.
Well, yeah.
Sounds like the perfect place for a good weekend.
It sounds horrible. I mean, it does actually have quite a tough reputation, doesn't it?
Indeed it does.
How long would
It's a very tough place.
Assuming they let you in and then let you out at the end, how long would you spend inside?
Well, hopefully 3 nights. That's what I've been doing.
That's quite a long time.
That's what I've been doing all over the place. Yes, well, it is, yeah. And the food's pretty lousy, but afterwards I go and reward myself with a steak dinner and a whiskey.
Quite right. Where have you already served time, spent your 3 days?
Well, I've just done 7 in the United States.
That's 7 prisons?
I spent, yes, 7 jails.
Yeah.
You see, I visited 1 prison, El Dorado Maximum Security in Kansas, and I stayed in 3 county jails in Kansas and 1 county jail in Nebraska.
What were they like? What was your time like there?
Well, actually, I was very impressed with the facilities and with the people who work within the system. And I didn't have any problem with my fellow inmates. There was a novelty being an Englishman in the jail over there. And we had a few laughs inside the jail. There was good camaraderie.
Good heavens. You weren't victimised in any way by them because you were a new boy?
No, certainly not. Certainly not.
Were you treated differently at all by the authorities who presumably knew what you were doing and knew who you were?
Only the senior staff knew who I was. The junior NCOs, the officers, they didn't know who I was, and I was treated just the same as every other inmate.
What were conditions like?
Well, the food was lousy. I mean, it's mainly carbohydrates. But a lot of the facilities, 3 of them I stayed in were quite old. One jail was built in the 30s, another one built in the 50s. And the hardest facility I was in, Salina County Jail, Kansas, was built back in 1995. And even though it was a modern facility, it did have a very bleak atmosphere.
And what were your roommates like? What sort of crimes were they in for?
Well, the guy sleeping on the bunk below me was a dead ringer for Lord Conrad Black of Cross Harbour, and the guy on the
newspaper
other
magnate.
That's right, and a former employer of mine. Right. And we had another bloke who looked like Don King, complete with the hairstyle.
And what had they done? Why were they in there?
Most of the guys in there for driving under the influence of alcohol, possession of drugs, parole violations.
You sounded as though you quite liked them, that you got on rather well with them.
I did. I got on very well with the chaps inside. I mean, as I said, there was good camaraderie because you're not allowed to smoke. You're deprived of so many things, and so you do tend to... There were many light moments.
You see, I would have thought that it would be a completely unpleasant experience, that for a start you could get into real trouble doing this because jails are not, we think, the friendliest of places.
Well, that's true, but I just have to deal with things on an ad hoc basis, and if I get into any trouble, I'm sure as hell get out of it.
Are you tempted when you've done this to perhaps campaign for better prison conditions or better treatment of prisoners, anything like that?
Well, I've certainly noticed a few things. I mean, overcrowding's pandemic, and I do think that they shouldn't throw so many people with problems inside jail. I mean, there's a lot of guys with serious problems, drink problems, and I don't think prison's curative, or jail.
Okay. So you've written all these letters off to prison authorities. What sort of replies are you getting?
Well, I'm still waiting for a few. I've had a hell of a problem with the Home Office in the UK. I asked to go to Dartmoor, and I got categorically denied.
Really?
And I'm also looking to go to Japan. The Thai Department of Corrections, the chap I'm dealing with there, he's a really nice bloke, and he said he'd let me in for a tour.
Okay, so where do you think you'll go next?
Probably Bangkwang Central Prison and Japan, and I'm lobbying to get access to a facility in Laos.
Okay, and you don't have any sort of qualms about this at all, obviously?
Not really. I mean, it's going to be a good book. It's going to be very interesting, and I'm very interested to see how I'm going to be at the end of the experience.
Well, that's actually going to be quite interesting, isn't it, to see the effect it has on you? And as you say, you'll be looking very hard at the effects generally it has on people. Alexander, thank you very much. Alexander Reynolds, trying to get into the Bangkwang prison in Bangkok.